Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me ask you something. What's the one thing holding you back? I'm not talking about money, time, or circumstances. No, it's not outside of you. It's right here in your mind. It's the voice that says, you can't do it. You're not good enough. What if you fail? That's negative thinking. And tonight, I'm telling you, kill it. See, negative thinking isn't just a thought, it's a habit. It's a pattern that convinces you to shrink, to stay small, to settle. It whispers in your ear every time you're about to step into something bigger than yourself. But hear me when I say this negative thinking is a liar. Let me begin with a question. Have you ever felt like you were your own worst enemy? Not because of what you did, but because of what you thought. That little voice in your head, persistent, relentless, saying, you're not good enough. You don't have what it takes. Why even try? It's an experience we've all had. You might be sitting here tonight feeling like you're stuck, like the life you dream of is just out of reach. But what if I told you that the biggest barrier between where you are and where you want to be isn't your circumstances, your resources, or your past, it's your thoughts. That's the truth. The way you think has more power over your life than anything outside of you. Let me share a story with you. Imagine a man standing at the base of a tall mountain, staring up at his towering peak. The summit seems impossibly far, and his mind begins to fill with doubts. It's too high. I'll never make it. What if I fall? What if I fail? So he doesn't even try. He turns around and walks away, not because he's incapable of climbing the mountain, but because his thoughts convinced him he couldn't. Now, imagine another climber standing at the same spot. She looks at the peak, feels the same fear, hears the same doubts, but instead of turning back, she takes the first step, and then another, and then another. She may slip along the way, but each step brings her closer to the summit. The difference between the two climbers isn't their strength, skill, or resources. It's their mindset. One was controlled by negative thinking, while the other refused to let those thoughts dictate her actions. Negative thinking is a liar. It tells you that your past defines you, that your mistakes are permanent, and that you're not capable of achieving more. It convinces you to settle for less, to play small, to stay safe. But let me tell you something, every single person who has ever achieved greatness, every innovator, every leader, every trailblazer had to silence that voice in their head that said, you can't, they had to kill their negative thinking before it killed their dreams. Think about Thomas Edison. Thousands of failed experiments could have easily fed his doubt. He could have given up after the first, the 10th, or the 100th attempt at inventing the light bulb. But instead, he famously said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That wasn't just resilience, that was a mindset that refused to let negativity win. Negative thinking doesn't just appear when we face challenges, it's often a learned behavior. Over time, we build habits of self-doubt, replaying the same critical thoughts over and over again. They become so automatic that we don't even notice them anymore. But just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's true. Picture this, your mind is like a garden. If you neglect it, weeds, those negative thoughts will grow and take over. They'll choke out anything positive, leaving you with nothing but doubt and despair. But if you choose to nurture your garden, to pull out the weeds and plant seeds of encouragement, hope, and belief, something amazing happens. Over time, those positive thoughts take root and your mind becomes a place of growth, possibility, and strength. This process doesn't happen overnight. Killing negative thinking is not a one-time decision. It's a daily battle. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. Will you feed the thoughts that tear you down or the ones that lift you up? It's not enough to simply reject negativity. You have to replace it. I'm reminded of Muhammad Ali. Long before he was the greatest boxer in the world, he said he was the greatest. He declared it to anyone who would listen, not because he already had the titles to back it up, but because he understood the power of belief. He knew that if he repeated it enough, not just to others, but to himself, he would start to embody it. He replaced doubt with affirmation, and the results speak for themselves. What are you telling yourself every day? Are you saying, I'm not enough, or are you saying, I am capable. I am strong. I am ready. The words you speak to yourself matter more than you think. They're not just reflections of your mindset, they shape it. Let me give you another example. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Imagine if she had listened to the voice that said, "You're not a real writer. Your story isn't good enough." But she didn't. She silenced that voice and kept going. You might not be trying to invent the light bulb or write a best-selling novel, but the principle is the same. Whatever your dream is, whether it's building a business, pursuing a passion, or creating a better life for your family, your negative thinking will try to stop you. It will tell you all the reasons why you can't succeed. And if you let it, it will win. But you don't have to let it win. You have the power to rewrite the story in your head. Every time a thought comes that says, "I'm not good enough," challenge it. Ask yourself, is this thought true? What evidence do I have to support it? What would I say to a friend who was thinking this way? Often you'll find that your negative thoughts have no basis in reality. They're just fears dressed up as facts. Fear is often at the root of negative thinking. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. But let me tell you something, fear is not your enemy. It's a signal that you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and that's where growth happens. The key is not to let fear paralyze you, but to move forward in spite of it. Think about the people who inspire you. Do you think they were fearless? No, they felt fear just like you do. The difference is they didn't let it stop them. They heard the doubts, the worries, the negativity, and they chose to take action anyway. Action is one of the most powerful tools for overcoming negative thinking. When you take even a small step toward your goal, you prove to yourself that you're capable. And with each step, your confidence grows and the voice of doubt gets quieter. Imagine a seed planted in the ground. At first, it's buried in darkness and it might seem like nothing is happening. But with time, water, and sunlight, that seed begins to sprout. It pushes through the soil, reaching for the light until it becomes a strong, thriving plant. That's what happens when you take consistent action against your negative thinking. You may not see results right away, but every step you take is like water and sunlight for your growth. You're building something stronger than doubt, something that will withstand the storms of life. But let me be clear, this journey is not easy. There will be days when the negative thoughts feel overwhelming, when it feels easier to give up than to keep fighting. On those days, remind yourself why you started. Remind yourself of the dreams you're chasing, the life you're building, and the person you're becoming. You have to be your own biggest supporter, your own loudest cheerleader. Because the truth is, no one else can do this work for you. No one else can change your mindset. That power belongs to you and you alone. So ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to create? What kind of person do you want to be? And what kind of thoughts will help you get there? Your thoughts shape your actions shape your habits, and your habits shape your destiny. If you want to change your life, start by changing the way you think. And remember this, the most successful people in the world weren't born without doubts or fears. They simply refused to let those doubts and fears win. They killed their negative thinking and chose to believe in their potential. I want you to think about something for a moment. Picture the life you dream of, the goals you want to achieve, the person you want to become, the future you want to build. Now, think about what's holding you back from getting there. Is it the lack of opportunity? Is it the challenges life has thrown your way? Or is it something deeper, something quieter, but far more dangerous? If we're honest, most of the time, the thing standing between us and the life we desire isn't out there in the world. It's inside us. It's the thoughts we allow to take root, the doubts that creep in and convince us that we're not enough. Negative thinking is like a shadow that follows us, whispering all the reasons we can't, why we shouldn't, and how we'll fail if we try. But here's the truth, negative thinking is a liar. It's a thief. It steals your confidence, drains your energy, and builds a wall between you and your potential. And if you let it, it will keep you stuck, living small and settling for less than you're capable of. Tonight, I want to talk about how to confront that voice, how to challenge it, and ultimately how to kill it so you can live the life you were meant to live. Think about how often your thoughts determine your actions or your inaction. Maybe you've had an idea for something great, something that excites you, but before you even take the first step, that voice in your head says, "Who are you to think you can do this?" And just like that, you stop. You put the idea back on the shelf and tell yourself it wasn't meant to be. Not because you tried and failed, but because your thoughts convinced you it wasn't even worth trying. I've seen this happen so many times, not just in others, but in myself. We all have moments where we believe the worst about ourselves. We let one setback, one mistake, or one piece of criticism spiral into a story about why we're not good enough. And the more we replay that story, the more we start to believe it. It becomes a habit, a lens through which we view ourselves in the world. But let me tell you something, you are not your thoughts. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. Negative thinking is like a bad roommate who's overstayed their welcome, always complaining, criticizing, and telling you what you can't do. It's time to evict that voice. One of the biggest lies negative thinking tells you is that failure is final. It whispers, if you mess up, you'll never recover. People will judge you. You'll look foolish, but the truth is, failure is not the end. It's a step on the journey. Every successful person you admire has failed probably more times than you can imagine. The difference is they didn't let their failures define them. They used them as lessons, as stepping stones to something greater. Take Thomas Edison, for example. When he was trying to invent the light bulb, he failed thousands of times, thousands. But he didn't see those failures as proof that he wasn't capable. He saw them as progress, as necessary steps toward the solution. Imagine if he had let negative thinking win. Imagine if, after the first failure, he thought, "I'm not smart enough, I'll never figure this out," and gave up. The world might still be in darkness. The same goes for you. Whatever you're facing, whatever challenge or setback you've experienced, it's not a reason to stop. It's a reason to keep going. But to do that, you have to change the way you think about failure. Instead of seeing it as a reflection of your worth, see it as an opportunity to grow. Negative thinking isn't just a liar, it's a habit. Over time, we get used to thinking a certain way, and our brains create patterns that reinforce those thoughts. If you spent years telling yourself, "I'm not good at this," or "I'll never succeed," those thoughts become automatic. They're like a well-worn path in your mind, easy to follow because you've walked it so many times. But here's the good news: just as you've built the habit of negative thinking, you can build a new habit of positive thinking. It starts with awareness. Pay attention to the thoughts you're having throughout the day. When a negative thought comes up, don't just accept it. Question it. Challenge it. Ask yourself, is this really true? Or is this just fear talking? Once you've identified those negative thoughts, the next step is to replace them. If your mind says, "I'm not good enough," replace it with, "I'm learning and growing every day." If it says, "What if I fail?" replace it with, "What if I succeed?" If it says, "This is too hard," replace it with, "I can do hard things." The words you speak to yourself matter. They're not just a reflection of your mindset, they shape it. Look at someone like Muhammad Ali. Before he was a champion, he called himself the greatest. He said it so often, so boldly, that people started to believe it, but more importantly, he believed it. His words weren't just a declaration, they were an affirmation. He was training his mind to see himself as a winner, even before the world did. Think about what you're saying to yourself every day. Are you building yourself up or tearing yourself down? If you wouldn't say it to a friend, why would you say it to yourself? Speak life over your dreams. Speak strength over your challenges. Speak belief over your fears. Let me share another story. J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, was rejected by 12 publishers before her first book was accepted. Imagine if she had let those rejections define her. Imagine if she thought, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not a real writer." But she didn't. She kept going even when it was hard, even when the odds were stacked against her. Today, her books have sold over 500 million copies. Her story reminds us that the opinions of others or the doubts in our own minds don't have to dictate our future. The only opinion that truly matters is the one you have about yourself. And if that opinion is rooted in negativity, it's time to change it. This isn't easy work. Killing negative thinking takes effort, persistence, and courage. It's not something you do once and forget about. It's a daily battle. Every morning when you wake up, you have to decide, will you let fear and doubt control your day, or will you choose hope and faith instead? One of the most powerful ways to fight negative thinking is through gratitude. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, your perspective shifts. Gratitude quiets the voice of negativity and makes room for joy, possibility, and peace. Start each day by writing down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big, just something that reminds you of the good in your life. Another strategy is to take action. When negative thoughts tell you you can't, the best way to prove them wrong is to do something. Even a small step toward your goal can build momentum and strengthen your belief in yourself. Action creates confidence, and confidence silences doubt. Think of your mind like a muscle. If you want it to get stronger, you have to train it. Every time you challenge a negative thought, every time you replace it with a positive one, you're building mental strength. Over time, those positive pathways in your brain become stronger, and the negative ones start to fade. This doesn't mean you'll never have negative thoughts again. You will. But when they come, you'll be ready. You'll recognize them for what they are: fears, doubts, and insecurities trying to hold you back. And instead of letting them control you, you'll take control of them. So tonight, I challenge you to start this journey. Don't let another day go by where negative thinking robs you of your potential. You are capable of more than you know. The life you dream of is within your reach. But to get there, you have to believe in yourself, even when it's hard, even when the doubts creep in. Because at the end of the day, the only thing standing between you and your goals is the story you tell yourself. Make it a story of courage, resilience, and triumph. Make it a story worth living. Negative thinking doesn't show up overnight. It creeps in gradually, often disguised as caution or realism, until one day it becomes the voice you hear most often. It's the voice that tells you, don't take that risk, you might fail. It's the whisper that says you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not good enough to do what you're dreaming of. And over time, that voice becomes so familiar that you don't even question it anymore. You accept it as truth, even though it's not. I'm here to tell you that negative thinking is not your truth. It's a habit, a pattern of thought that can be broken. But breaking it isn't easy. It requires awareness, effort, and a commitment to challenging the stories you've been telling yourself. Because those stories, they are not set in stone. You have the power to rewrite them. I want you to imagine for a moment that your mind is like a vast landscape. In this landscape, there are paths, some well-trodden, others barely visible. Every time you have a thought, it's like taking a step down one of those paths. The more you think a certain way, the more worn that path becomes, until it's the easiest, most automatic route for your mind to take. Now think about the paths you've been walking. Are they paths of confidence, hope, and possibility? Or are they paths of doubt, fear, and limitation? If you've been walking the path of negative thinking for years, it's no wonder it feels so natural. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's the only way forward. You can create new paths that lead to growth, to courage, to a life that's not ruled by fear. The first step in creating those new paths is to recognize when you're on the wrong one. Pay attention to the thoughts that cross your mind throughout the day. When something doesn't go as planned, do you immediately blame yourself? When you face a challenge, do you assume you're not capable of overcoming it? These automatic reactions are clues that negative thinking has taken hold. But awareness is only the beginning. Once you recognize those thoughts, you have to challenge them. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me, or is it holding me back? Is it based on facts, or is it just fear? Most of the time, you'll find that negative thoughts are not based on reality. They're based on assumptions, past experiences, or the fear of what might happen. For example, let's say you've been given an opportunity at work, a chance to lead a project or take on a new role. Your first thought might be, I'm not ready for this. What if I fail? That's negative thinking trying to protect you from risk, but in doing so, it's also keeping you from growth. Instead of accepting that thought, challenge it. Remind yourself of your past successes, of the skills you've worked hard to develop, of the fact that everyone feels unprepared at times but grows through the experience. Challenging negative thoughts is like standing up to a bully. At first, it might feel intimidating. After all, those thoughts have been pushing you around for years. But the more you stand your ground, the less power they have over you. And over time, you'll find that the voice of negativity grows quieter, while the voice of confidence grows stronger. But let's be honest, there will be days when that voice of negativity feels overwhelming, when it seems easier to give in than to fight back. On those days, I want you to remember this: you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. Just because a thought crosses your mind doesn't mean it's true, and it certainly doesn't mean you have to act on it. Think about a time when you achieved something you were proud of. Maybe it was a personal goal, a professional milestone, or simply a moment when you stepped out of your comfort zone. I can almost guarantee that at some point along the way you had doubts. You wondered if you were capable, if you were worthy, if it was even worth trying, but you pushed through those doubts, and the result was something you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. Now imagine if you had let those doubts win. Imagine if you had listened to the voice that said, "This is too hard, you're not ready." What if you failed? That moment of pride, that sense of accomplishment would never have happened. And for what? Because of a thought. A fleeting, intangible thing that had no power except the power you gave it. Negative thinking only has as much power as you allow it to have. It's like a fire, it needs fuel to survive. And the fuel it feeds on is your attention, your belief, and your willingness to accept it without question. If you stop feeding the fire, it dies. One of the most effective ways to stop feeding the fire is to replace negative thoughts with positive ones. This isn't about pretending that challenges don't exist or ignoring your feelings. It's about choosing to focus on what's possible instead of what's wrong. It's about reminding yourself that you are capable, that you are resilient, and that you are worthy of success. Take a moment to think about the words you speak to yourself every day. Are they words of encouragement or criticism? Are they words that build you up or tear you down? If you wouldn't say it to a friend, why would you say it to yourself? Speak to yourself with kindness, with compassion, and with the belief that you can overcome whatever comes your way. This shift in mindset doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, something you have to work on every day. But just like building a muscle, the more you do it, the stronger it becomes. And as your mindset shifts, you'll start to see changes in other areas of your life as well. When you believe in yourself, you take more risks, you step out of your comfort zone, you pursue opportunities that once seemed out of reach. And with each step forward, your confidence grows, creating a cycle of positivity and progress that propels you toward your goals. But let me be clear, killing negative thinking doesn't mean you'll never have doubts or fears again. Those thoughts will still show up from time to time. That's just part of being human. The difference is that you won't let them control you. You'll recognize them for what they are, just thoughts, and you'll choose to keep moving forward anyway. Every great achievement in history began with someone who refused to let negative thinking win. Whether it was Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb, J.K. Rowling writing Harry Potter, or Muhammad Ali declaring himself the greatest. Before the world even believed it, their success started with a decision to believe in themselves, even when it was hard, even when it seemed impossible. You have that same power within you. The power to challenge your doubts, to rewrite your story, and to create a life that reflects your true potential. It won't be easy. There will be setbacks, obstacles, and moments when it feels like the voice of negativity is louder than ever. But in those moments, remember this: you are stronger than your thoughts. You are capable of more than you know, and the life you dream of is worth fighting for. So when that voice of negativity whispers in your ear telling you that you can't, that you're not enough, that you'll never succeed, don't listen. Stand up, take a step forward, and prove it wrong. because the only way to kill negative thinking is to stop believing its lies and start believing in yourself.